Welcome back to Chop's Garage, and I've just bought a running driving car for £50. Now, I'm not going to show you what car it is yet. Those of you that are proper car buffs will know by now looking around, but we'll leave the rest of you guessing. And we'll have a look at exactly why it was £50 on the outside in a little while. But I just picked this up as a dealer part exchange. I went down there to pick up some other vehicles. They had this back, so they were going to send it to the scrap man, but it had MOT on it till August. I was told it run and drove, and I thought, look, for just a bit of fun, for 50 quid, it needs to be done. So I haven't actually driven it yet. I didn't drive it before I did the deal. You're not going to haggle at 50 quid, are you? So we're about to take it for a spin now and see exactly how bad it is. And then we'll take a look at the outside and you'll see why I got it for £50, and we'll see what we can do with it. Got bacon in here. I haven't got the aircon on so that you guys can hear me. Steering seems okay. It is. The steering wheel is off to the left. The track is out. We can hear a whirring there. Wheel bearing maybe, or the discs and pads are touching all the time, because my goodness, don't they sound bad. Like I say, you can feel it through the pedal really clearly. The actual suspension itself, the springs and the shocks seem to be okay. Hitting potholes and stuff like that, I'm not getting any major jarring or knocks. And the interior seems free from trim rattle, considering how many miles it's done and how old it is. It seems free of trim rattle. It's entirely drivable as it is. I wouldn't let anyone drive it very far because of those brakes. We're going to call this test drive quite short, because I don't want to be on the road with brakes that are that bad. But it is entirely drivable as it is. If you were the kind of person that didn't worry about that kind of thing, you could use it to get back and forth to work, I guess. Power wise, there's that slight hesitation as you pull away, like a little bit of a misfire, old coil pack, something like that, or oil on the spark plugs. We'll have a look at the service history in a bit, but it's going to get me back to the unit okay. The battery was very low when I picked it up. I did have to jump start it. It does seem to be running better and better as that battery gets some charge in it. Oh dear, those brakes, they're terrible. So if you haven't guessed by now, here it is, my £50 purchase. A Toyota Yaris on a W plate. A CDX no less. So we've got all colour coded bumpers, alloy wheels. We'll have a look around the raft of features on this vehicle a little bit later on. What is W? Is W, what year is that? Is that 2000 W, I think, isn't it? Now this was a part exchange at the main dealers. I think the person was getting a mobility vehicle and the guys were going to scrap it, and I said, just for fun, sell it to me instead. So it's £50, although that said, there is a £12 admin fee when I buy the cars from there. So in fact it is £62, or you can class it as £50 and then £12 in prep costs. Believe it or not, this car has an MOT until August, but the MOT is very scary. You read the list of things on there. It's a bit like War and Peace. I think the guy thought he was taking an English exam, the amount of writing he needed to do on that one. And as you can tell from the test drive, either things have got considerably worse in a short period of time, or that MOT was not the best one in the world, because the brakes are appalling on it. It was running lumpy as when I first set off, so I don't quite know how it passed the emissions. Mind you, that it has improved quite a lot, so possibly that wasn't an issue at testing. But yeah, the tyres, they're worn very much on the edge here. Completely pretty much bowled on the outside edge here, but I guess it's only like 3/4 of the tyre that needs to pass. I mean, the tread in the middle is fine, I guess. So they've got it correct in terms of what the rules are for the MOT, I think. That's got plenty of tread on it. That one has 2, but this one again, the outside edges are really worn on both. Continental tyres though, someone's continued to put on decent branded tyres on this car, despite its low value and terrible paint. Now obviously that is the obvious thing. The paint is appalling. These are renowned for doing this. They get really bad lack appeal. Red is the worst colour for it. This is where basically the clear coat on top of the paint separates from the paint underneath and flakes off, as you can see up here. And then as the sun does it, hits it, it starts to bleach all the colour out. As you can see, the bonnet is really bad there. So the interior is pretty bad on the paint front. We've got a big ding in the front wing there. We've got a lot of scraping on the back here and a ding further down there, and a ding goes into the arch. This is what you get for 50 quid, guys. I still can't believe that. £50. And it actually managed to get me here as well. That's the mad thing about it. Yeah, dings in the door there. So bodywork is beat up and we've got lacquer peel everywhere. Inside isn't too bad. For the mileage, the seats really aren't that worn. I mean, they're filthy. They really want a wet clean to get the best out of them. But there's no burn holes, no tears, no rips. You'd forgive it for thinking it had done half the mileage on the condition of the fabrics, because they haven't faded either. The Toyota stuff has lasted good and proper. The door cards are quite nice. Normally you start to get this stuff peeling away from the backing, but this is doing quite well. Steering wheel's not overly worn. Gear knob isn't even really that worn, considering. Handbrake, all the plastics aren't too bad at all. We've got a big folder full of stuff here, which I'll look for in a bit. I'll just show you the mileage 1 second. Mileage, it's flickered a bit for you on screen, isn't it? 173,145 miles. So it shows you cars aren't dead at 100,000 miles. People think cars automatically die at 100,000 miles, but they will go on forever and a day these days. We have a raft of features, including a radio with CD, aircon, nice old manual switches working beautifully. Now we have also got this massive folder full of paperwork. I'm going to try and show you some of it without giving away the customer's name. Firstly, we've got service and warranty book. This is a service book. Obviously never checked this because it didn't make a blind bit of difference whether it had service history or not, to be honest. Oh, hang fire, what have we got here? Oh my word, a lot of stamps. We've got 2001, 2, that must supposed to be 3, 4, what's that, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here we go, we're going to get bingo. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. That's mad. It's got a pretty much full service. I think it's only missed 1 or 2 there, isn't it? And we just have a ton of other receipts here, which I'm not going to go through in detail because presumably just the same sort of thing, duplicates of the services, and I don't want to get any of the customer's information on the go. But we've got pretty much a full service history car. So here's the engine bay. It's grubby and the fan belt looks like it's alternator belt, sorry, looks like it's worn a lot. It's not squealing there, to be fair. I can't see any oil. The gearbox down there looks dry as a bone. Normally you get your rear main seal starts to leak and throws oil out of your gearbox, and you get a lot of oil there. Your rocker cover normally starts to leak after sort of 100,000 miles and you get oil down the front of the engine. Haven't got that. All the under trays are bone dry. VVTi, is the 1.3, I'm sure, yeah, it is the 1.3. Oil, as we can tell from the service history, is super clean. Isn't it mad how bad the outside of this car is, but how well maintained it is on the rest of the stuff? Yeah, so that's actually quite tidy. There's no mayo on the cap, I don't think. I wouldn't say there's going to be any based on that dipstick. Nah, not a sign of it at all. I do think that the coil packs could do with replacing. And the spark plugs, possibly. Mind you, didn't have spark plugs that long ago, so it's probably the coil packs. I feel like there's a slight misfire. But yeah, quite impressed with that. Now, what we haven't done is had a look underneath the Yaris for rust. And actually, it isn't too bad there on the rear subframe. Normally they are way crustier than that. So a quick look at the sill. Oh dear, there's a big hole in the back of the sill there. Someone's bashed that. How did that pass last MOT with that hole on the end of the sill? That hasn't happened overnight either. That should have been an easy fail. So we know it definitely needs welding on the sill there to get through another MOT. Let's have a look on this side. And again, we've got a big hole at the end of the seal. Who's doing these MOTs? Gordon Bennett. I know that the MOT is only valid on the day it's done, but this still has MOT to August. That didn't happen overnight. Holy moly. So it's definitely a rock box. So look under here. I don't know what the light's doing for you guys. It's really sunny today, so apologies if the light is bad. The front subframe doesn't look too bad actually. That's not that crusty, so it's the end of the sills that need doing. So you might say, what can you do with this then, James? Well, a couple of options for me. Sell it to the scrap man. The other thing is put it on Facebook Marketplace, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. Put it on Facebook Marketplace with the remaining MOT on it. Say it's spares and repair, it's coming as part exchange, but the reality is if I let anybody drive off the yard on it, it still falls under the Consumer Rights Act. I don't actually think the brakes are particularly safe to be driving much at the moment, so even though I could sell saying it needs its brakes doing in this day and age, who tells what could come back on me. But what I do want to do, regardless of what ends up with, is just show you how you could improve this paint a little bit if you've got a similar car on the go. I'll show you how you could very easily tighten this up a little bit, and because I can't just really help myself when a car's looking this sad for itself. Because what we don't do is we're going to do a bit of machine polish on it. We don't want to be machine polishing in the grit and the grime and scratching the paintwork, because it's such pristine paintwork, isn't it? We really need to worry about scratching it. But I just wanted to show how you could improve this. You bought this car dirt cheap and you need a little run around, you wanted to make it look a bit more respectable, this is how you might be able to do it. So now we'll get some compound on. I only bother using the 3M, it's the more expensive stuff, but it does do the job. Excuse me, doing it one-handed, as always. Get that quite generously on there. And then we're going to use a wool head on the polishes, just a Silverline polisher, not an expensive polisher, just a Silverline one with a wool head. Wool head is more aggressive than the foam. It's really going to kick through into this. So let me just smear it around a bit. Make sure I don't flick this absolutely everywhere. You don't want to be turning it on straight away because you'll flick that absolutely all over the shop. And I'll see if I can do this one-handed a bit for you first. Right, give this a bit of a buff up. So there we go, we've given it a bit of a machine polish off there. Still a bit faded. You could go at it a bit more. You could take some 800 grit sandpaper to it, 1200, buff it right up, but I've got a much quicker solution than that. Yeah, we're going to turn to my go-to product, the Troll Colour Restorer. You may have seen this on the channel before if you've worked. This stuff is amazing. Now, obviously, what it's normally for is for black plastics. If you put it on a black plastic like that, put it on there, boff, straight away, you've got a lovely glossy black, and it soaks into the plastic. If you've got milky plastics, sort of up here where it's gone a bit white and milky, you put it on there, it soaks right in and gives you a fantastic gloss black. But little known secret is, if you put it on paintwork, it does this. And because it's such a thick oil, it stays on here for quite a long time. So if you want to do a really quick and dirty job of giving a car a bit of shine, let's say you bought this car, I said, and you just wanted to run around a bit and make it look a little bit more respectable, this needs to be on your list of goodies to have around. I'll show you again, look up here where the paint's faded. Get in there with the oil, it'll soak into that dried out paint and give you a nice glossy finish. I say it lasts for a good time. You need to just wipe a bit more when it starts to wear off. Just wipe a bit more on. Now, some people say in the past to me, oh, WD-40 does the same thing. No, it dries out really, really quickly. It's nowhere near as thick as the Troll. And this stuff as well is much better for plastics than anything else I've used. It is actually really good for, like, if you've got UPVC windows and doors and they're a bit faded, bung some of this on. I use it so much that one of you subscribers got in touch with them and told them how much I used it, and they contacted me and gave me a discount code for any of you that want to buy it. So I'll put a link to that in the video description down below, and I'll put it on the screen as well now. But if you're flipping cars and you're doing DIY stuff and that, this is really good stuff to have kicking around. Now, I should obviously go over the rest of the car, but that isn't a useful useful use of my time at the moment. Yeah, rephrase that in a way that makes a bit more sense. I'm going to go down and show the MOT'd boys my latest purchase. I need to go and drop a timing chain kit to them for the Nissan Note I've got down now. I want to show them what I bought for 50 quid. So we'll take a little spin down to them. We'll see what they've got to say about it. Just before we do that, I'm just going to give it a second application. I find once the first application is soaked into the paint and filled up all the pores, if you then give it a second application, you get a really good shine, as you can see here. Try not to spill it everywhere. Get a bit more on the cloth. Be generous on the cloth. Make sure you've got plenty of it on there, because you want it to really soak into that paintwork. I don't think they recommend it for this use. They've never told me it's for this use, but I use it for this all the time. Obviously not for retail cars, but just to make things look smarter. Just because I enjoy doing it, really. Right, Joe's just offered me 100 quid for the little Yaris. And he said, oh, can you just pop the bonnet? I said to Joe, I said, no, exactly what you're looking for, mate. You're trying to see if it's got the original catalytic converter on it or not. And he just stuck his head under there. He just hopped up and gone, yeah, 100 quid Saturday. Yeah, I'm not as green as I look, Joe, mate. I'm not as green as I look. There we go. There we go, sold. So that's the end of the journey for the Yaris with me. It's going down to Joe at Moore's Garage. Now, I know I'm getting done over slightly, because if it is the original catalytic converter, which he knew, he was grinning about it. If it's the original catalytic converter, that could be worth $350 on its own, and then you could weigh in the rest of the body on the car and get yourself some money out of there. But Joe's a nice lad. He does a lot of work down for me at Moore's, getting my cars prepped, and sometimes you give back. I'm not going to lose money on it. I'm not going to gain money on it. I've got my £12 admin fee, so I'm up to £62. I've got to pay some VAT on that sale, so that'll be about, oh, what's that going to be? It's going to be mental blank, £8 or so on the VAT, so I'm up to about 70 quid. Then there's a bit of money to Mrs. Chops for driving me over there and fuel. So I'm not really going to, if I make 20 quid out of it, I'll be doing well. But Joe will make himself a bit of money out of it, and I don't mind that, because like I say, he's a good lad. He does a lot of work down for me on the garage, getting cars prepped, does a bit of extra hours and stuff to make sure I get them in time. So we're milking it for every penny. Joe's here for the Yaris. I've got him to take away all my scrap metal as well, so it can really weigh up for him when it goes in. He's got a couple of bonus batteries thrown in as well. I have drained all the fuel out of it, so at least I can get a couple of rides out of the Firebird. So unfortunately, poor little Yaris, that's it. Off it goes to the scrap yard. But I think everybody's got their money's worth out of this one.